she'll fine me $2,000 for fishing in a lake she didn't even own. So I bought the lake, banned her, and watched as her obsession led to this. This is how I defeated the ultimate HOA Karen. The sheriff handed me a $2,000 fine for catching fish in what I thought was a community lake. I watched my 8-year-old daughter's face crumple as she dropped her fishing rod. 3 months later, that same sheriff knocked on my neighbor Karen's door with an eviction notice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Tom Hayes, 42 years old, retired Army veteran. After 20 years of service, I moved to Willow Creek, a quiet community built around a beautiful natural lake. The HOA documents clearly stated all residents had access to the lake for recreational purposes. That's what I was told when I bought my house 3 years ago. That Saturday morning in April of 2024 started perfectly. My daughter Emma had been begging me to take her fishing for weeks. The spring weather was ideal with temperatures around 70 degrees and clear skies. We packed our gear, made sandwiches, and headed to our favorite spot on the eastern shore. Emma caught her first bass of the morning. It wasn't huge, maybe 2 pounds, but she screamed with joy like she had landed a whale. We took photos, released the fish, and cast our lines again. I thought about how lucky I was to have this life after years of deployments and stress. That's when I heard her voice. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" Karen Whitmore was marching toward us. She lived in the largest house on the lake, a sprawling 5,000-square-foot mansion that cost over $900,000. She never let anyone forget it. For 2 years, she had complained about everything at HOA meetings. Last month, it was mailbox colors. The month before, she tried banning children from the playground after 6 p.m. "Hi, Karen," I said pleasantly. "Just fishing with my daughter." "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" "You can't fish here," she snapped, face already red. She wore what looked like a $500 tracksuit and expensive sunglasses. "This is private property." Emma pressed against my side. "Karen, the HOA documents clearly state all residents have lake access for recreational activities. I checked before moving here. Those documents are outdated," she said, crossing her arms. "New rules prohibit fishing without a special permit. You don't have one." New rules. I never got notification. "I attend every HOA meeting." "You should pay more attention," Karen replied, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling the sheriff. You're trespassing." "Dad, let's just go home." Emma tugged my sleeve. "We're not doing anything wrong, sweetheart," I told her, though my stomach was knotting. Karen had connections. Her husband was a lawyer, and she sat on the HOA board. 20 minutes later, Sheriff Rodriguez arrived. He was a good man, someone I knew from community events. He looked uncomfortable as Karen talked over me, waving her arms, insisting I was breaking the law. "Tom," the sheriff said quietly, "do you have a fishing permit for this lake?" I didn't know I needed one. "The HOA documents say residents have access." Karen thrust paper at him. "This is the new HOA regulation, passed 3 weeks ago. Fishing requires a $500 yearly permit. He doesn't have one." I looked at the paper. It had HOA letterhead, dated 3 weeks prior. But I had never seen it, never heard it discussed at any meeting. Something wasn't right. "I need to issue your citation," Rodriguez said apologetically. "The fine for fishing without required permit is $2,000. $2,000. My gut twisted. For catching and releasing a couple fish. That's what the regulation says. Karen smiled in a way that made my blood boil. "Maybe next time you'll pay attention to HOA communications." I took the citation with shaking hands. Emma was crying. I felt like the worst father. We packed up and walked home in silence. Sarah was waiting on the porch, her face falling when she saw us. "What happened?" I explained everything while Emma went to her room. Sarah's expression shifted from concern to anger to determination. "This is ridiculous. We need to fight this at the next HOA meeting." The meeting was Thursday evening, 6 days Hawaii. I spent those days researching. I pulled out HOA documents, checked every email, examined every piece of mail. No mention of any fishing permit requirement. I asked around the neighborhood. Mike, 2 houses down, told me something interesting. He had fished at the lake 3 days before the supposed regulation took effect. Karen confronted him too, but he refused to leave. Next day, he got a letter from Karen's husband threatening legal action for trespassing on private property. Private property. The lake is community property. HOA documents say so. That's what I thought, Mike said. But Karen's been telling people she owns the lake, or has special rights, because her property line extends to the water. I visited the county records office. The lake was actually owned by a private individual, not the HOA, Robert Peterson, with an address in a neighboring town. When the HOA formed 25 years ago, Peterson granted an easement, allowing all residents to use the lake. That easement was recorded and legally binding. Karen's regulation was meaningless if it violated the original agreement. Thursday evening, Sarah and I entered the HOA meeting armed with easement copies and research. Barbara Mills, our 55-year-old retired teacher, HOA president, called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. She was fair and reasonable, keeping the community running smoothly for 3 years despite conflicts. Carrion sat in front, looking smug. 30 other residents scattered throughout the room. First item, Barbara said, adjusting her glasses, is new lake usage regulations proposed by board member Karen Whitmore. I raised my hand immediately. Yes, Tom, I have serious concerns. I stood. First, these regulations weren't properly communicated. Second, they appear to violate the original easement agreement between the lake owner and HOA. I passed Barbara the easement document and explained my findings. Her eyebrows rose as she read. Karen stood, face red. That easement is 25 years old. Things change. The lake needs protection. Unrestricted fishing damages the ecosystem. Do you have evidence of ecological damage? I don't need evidence. Anyone can see fish population declining. Actually, Mike spoke from the back. I've fished this lake 15 years. Fish population has never been healthier. More bass, bluegill, crappie than when I moved here. Several residents nodded. Barbara raised her hand for quiet. Tom makes a valid point. This easement is legally binding. We can't override it with new regulations. Karen, did you research this before proposing new rules? The HOA has the right to make rules benefiting all residents. Not if those rules violate existing legal agreements, Barbara said firmly, looking at me apologetically. Tom, I'm very sorry about your fine. It was issued under false pretenses. I'll contact the sheriff's office for dismissal. Karen's face went purple. This is unacceptable. I'm a board member. I demand this regulation be upheld. Karen, Barbara said with strained patience, we can't uphold a regulation with no legal basis. I'm calling for a vote to rescind the fishing permit requirement. All in favor. Every hand went up, except Karen's motion passes. The fishing permit requirement is rescinded. Karen gathered her things and stormed out, slamming the door. Relief washed over me. Sarah squeezed my hand. After the meeting, Barbara pulled me aside. Tom, I had no idea Karen planned this. She said it was board approved, but I don't remember voting on it. Do you think she forged documents? Barbara hesitated. I don't want to accuse without proof, but I'll watch her more carefully now. The fine was dismissed 2 days later. Em and I returned to fishing the following weekend. Everything seemed normal, but Karen wasn't done. 2 weeks later, I received certified mail from Karen's husband, David Whit, attorney at law. I was being sued for harassment, defamation, and interfering with private property rights. They sought $50,000. I stared at the letter in disbelief. Sarah read over my shoulder and on my back. They can't be serious. They're completely serious. This is Karen's revenge for making her look bad. I needed help fast. I called my old army buddy, Marcus Thompson. He had left the military 5 years before me, gone to law school, and now practiced real estate law in the city 2 hours away. Long time. What's going on? I explained everything from fishing incident to lawsuit. Marcus listened without interrupting. Long pause. Long pause. Then he said something that would change everything. Tom, you said the lake is privately owned by Robert Peterson? Yeah. County records show that. Have you met this Peterson? No. Never heard of him until I looked up records. Another pause. I think you should visit Mr. Peterson. I should come with you. Can you meet me Saturday? Sure. But why? Because I have an idea that might solve all your problems. But I need to talk to Peterson first. Saturday, Marcus drove up from the city, tall and lean with an easy smile, though his hair was graying now. We found Peterson's address, a modest ranch-style home 20 minutes from Willow Creek. Mr. Peterson answered. Early 80s, thin and stooped, kind eyes behind thick glasses. He invited us in immediately when we explained. Please, sit. Can I get coffee? We accepted. He shuffled to the kitchen, returned with 3 cups, sat in his armchair with a sigh. So you're having trouble with the Willow Creek I told him everything. His face grew sadder. I'm very sorry. That lake's been in my family 3 generations. My grandfather bought the land in 1935, including the lake. When the HOA formed, I was happy to grant the easement. I wanted the community to enjoy the lake like my family had. Have you seen the lake recently? Marcus asked. Peterson shook his head. Not in 5 years. My wife passed, and it's hard to get around. Why? Because you might be interested in what's been happening. Marcus explained Karen's attempts to control lake access, fabricated regulations, general harassment of residents using the lake. Peterson's hands tightened on his cup. That's not what I intended. That easement was supposed to ensure everyone could enjoy the lake freely. Mr. Peterson, Marcus said, have you thought about selling the lake? The old man looked surprised. Selling? No, not really. It's been in the family so long. But I suppose... ... He trailed off. Thoughtful. If someone were to buy it, someone who would honor your original intention of keeping it accessible to the community, would you consider that? Peterson looked at me. Are you talking about Tom buying the lake? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Marcus grinned. My heart raced. Buy the lake. I had military retirement savings, but buying an entire lake that had 2 cost a fortune. Peterson was quiet for a long moment, staring into his cup. Then he looked up with a slight smile. You know what? I like the idea of the lake going to someone who will actually use it and protect it properly, not some HOA board member who wants to turn it into her private kingdom. He stood slowly, walked to a desk in the corner, pulled out a folder, brought it back. I had the property appraised last year for estate planning. The lake and surrounding 30 acres are worth approximately $400,000. My heart sank. No way I could afford that. But Peterson wasn't finished. However, if you promise to keep the lake accessible to the community and maintain it properly, I'll sell it to you for $300,000. I looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. $300,000. Still huge. But between savings and a loan, it might be possible. Mr. Peterson, I said slowly, I would be honored to buy the lake. And I promise I'll keep it accessible to everyone in the community who respects it. The old man smiled and extended his hand. I shook it, feeling the weight of what I was agreeing to. There's one condition, Peterson added, eyes twinkling. When you take ownership, I want you to tell me what that Karen woman's face looks like when she finds out. Marcus and I both laughed. On the drive back, my mind received. Marcus was already drawing up paperwork. The process would take about 6 weeks, he said. 6 weeks to secure financing, conduct survey, transfer deed. You realize what this means? Marcus said as he drove. Once you own that lake, you make the rules. You decide who has access. I know, and I plan to make sure everyone in the community can use it. Everyone except one particular neighbor. Marcus grinned. That's the spirit, though you should probably talk to a lawyer first. Oh wait, you're talking to one. When I got home, I told Sarah everything. Her reaction cycled from shock to excitement to concern and back to excitement in 5 minutes. Are you sure we can afford this? With retirement savings and a loan? Yes, it'll be tight, but we can do it. Think about it, Sarah. We'll own a lake. Our kids will grow up swimming and fishing in our own lake. She smiled. When you put it that way, how can I say no? But what I didn't know was that Karen was about to make one more desperate move that would push things to the breaking point. Your HOA horror story. Share it below. Daily HOA and Karen stories. At HOA Street Stories. Should Tom join the HOA board? Like the video. The next 6 weeks were some of the longest of my life. I secured the financing, and the bank was willing to work with me once they saw the property's appraisal value. Marcus handled all legal work. Everything progressed smoothly, but Karen was not sitting idle. 3 days after my conversation with Mr. Peterson, I received an anonymous county complaint about alleged environmental violations at my property. Someone claimed I was illegally dumping waste into a storm drain feeding the lake. The county inspector found nothing wrong, but the visit was stressful and time-consuming. A week later, Sarah's car was keyed in our driveway. Deep scratches ran along both sides. We filed a police report, but there were no witnesses. The repair cost us $800. Then, Emma came home crying. Karen's daughter Madison had been spreading rumors at school. Madison told other kids we were thieves who would be arrested soon. Emma was only 8 and didn't understand why someone would lie about us. Sarah was furious and wanted to confront Karen, but I talked her out of it. We need to stay calm. Karen wants us to react. She wants something she can use against us in court. We can't give her that. The harassment continued. Trash cans knocked over multiple times. A dead fish left on our porch. Mailbox vandalized. Each incident was small enough that police couldn't do much, but together they created constant stress. Meanwhile, the loan approval moved forward. I provided extensive documentation about finances, employment, history, and property plans. The bank needed assurance I could afford the $300,000 loan on top of my existing mortgage. Marcus was optimistic. The appraisal came back at $410,000. That gives you plenty of equity buffer. The bank should approve without problems. Then something strange happened. The loan officer, Richard Choon, called. His voice sounded strained. Mr. Hayes, we've received concerning information about your application. My stomach dropped. What kind of information? Someone filed a formal complaint alleging you obtained the purchase agreement through fraudulent means. They claim you coerced Mr. Peterson into selling below market value by threatening him. That's absolutely false. Who filed this? The complaint was anonymous, but it included what appeared to be sworn statements from several individuals. This is Karen Whitmore's doing. She's been harassing my family for weeks. Richard sighed. I believe you, Mr. Hayes, but our compliance department takes all allegations seriously. We need to investigate before proceeding with the loan. How long will that take? At least 2 weeks, possibly more. I'm sorry. I immediately called Marcus. This is obstruction, Marcus said. Karen is trying to delay the sale long enough that Peterson might back out or you might give up. We need to move faster. How? The bank won't approve for at least 2 weeks. Let me make some calls. 2 days later, Marcus had good news. A friend at a different bank was willing to fast-track my application. The interest rate would be slightly higher, but I didn't care. I just wanted the deal done before Karen could sabotage it further. The new bank moved quickly. Within 5 days, they reviewed everything and approved the loan. Marcus expedited the title search and survey. Everything was falling into place, but Karen had one more card to play. On a Tuesday morning, exactly 4 weeks after I agreed to buy the lake, I received certified mail from a law firm in the city. They represented an organization called the Willow Creek Environmental Preservation Society, filing an injunction to block the sale. The letter claimed Mr. Peterson didn't have legal right to sell because the lake was a protected wetland habitat under state environmental regulations. Transfer required state environmental agency approval, which could take months or years. I had never heard of this society. Internet search revealed it was incorporated just 2 weeks earlier. Listed address was a post office box. Board of directors, not publicly disclosed. This is clearly a shell organization, Marcus said. Karen probably set it up specifically to block this sale. But they're not entirely wrong about environmental regulations. Some wetlands do require state approval for ownership transfer. We need to find out if this lake actually qualifies. Marcus contacted a friend at the State Environmental Agency. After reviewing maps and records, his friend confirmed Willow Lake was not classified as a protected wetland. It was a natural lake, but didn't meet criteria for special protection. This injunction has no legal basis. Marcus told me we can fight it, but it will take time. They know that. How long? If we're lucky, 2 weeks. If unlucky, a month or more. My anger rose. Karen was doing everything to prevent this sale, not caring who she hurt. Mr. Peterson was elderly and wanted to see this completed. My family was being harassed. The entire community was held hostage by one person's vindictive. That evening, I attended the monthly HOA meeting. Word had spread about my lake purchase attempt, and people were curious. Barbara called the meeting to order. After parking discussions, she opened the floor for new business. I raised my hand. Yes. Tom. I stood, looking directly at Karen. I want to address the elephant in the room. For the past month, my family has been subjected to harassment, vandalism, and intimidation. Someone filed false complaints with the county and my bank. Someone created a fake environmental organization to block a legal real estate transaction. Someone spread vicious rumors about my family at the elementary school. The room went silent. Karen's face remained impassive, but I saw her jaw tighten. I don't have definitive proof of who's behind this, but I think everyone here has a pretty good idea. What I want to say is, I will not be intimidated. I will not give up. And when I become owner of Willow Lake, there'll be consequences for anyone who participated in this harassment campaign. Karen stood slowly. Are you accusing me of something? Tom, I'm simply stating facts. If you want to interpret those facts as an accusation, that's your choice. You're paranoid. Not everything is about you. Perhaps your own behavior has caused these problems. You're trying to steal community property for personal benefit. The lake was never community property, Barbara interjected. As we've established, it's privately owned with an easement. An easement Tom intends to violate by banning residents. Karen shot back. I intend to ban one resident, one who has demonstrated a pattern of harassment and abuse. Toward others, the rest of the community will continue to have full access. Several residents nodded. Mike stood from the back. I support Tom 100%. Karen has been a problem for years, and it's about time someone stood up to her. Other residents murmured agreement. Karen looked around, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. She was realizing she didn't have the community support she thought she had. This is outrageous, Karen said. I've dedicated years to this community. I've served on the HOA board. I've organized events. I've tried to maintain standards. And this is how you repay me. Karen, Barbara said gently. No one is questioning your dedication, but there's a difference between maintaining standards and controlling people. Tom has every right to purchase the lake if the current owner agrees, and he has every right to set reasonable rules. Karen grabbed her purse. I see how it is. You've all turned against me. Fine. But mark my words, this isn't over. My husband will make sure of that. She stormed out. This time, several people actually applauded after she left. After the meeting, at least a dozen residents offered their support. Some shared their own stories of conflicts with Karen. Others thanked me for standing up to her. It felt good to know the community was behind me. But I knew Karen wasn't done. The next morning, Marcus kajid. He sounded excited. Good news. The judge reviewed the injunction request and denied it. He said the Willow Creek Environmental Preservation Society failed to demonstrate standing, and their arguments weren't supported by evidence. That's fantastic. Better yet, the judge ordered them to pay your legal fees for defending against a frivolous claim. That's about $3,000. Karen's shell organization now owes you. I laughed. I doubt I'll ever see that money. Here's the best part. The judge ordered the organization to disclose its board members and funding sources. If it's Karen, she'll have to admit it, and if she lied about not being involved, she could face sanctions. So what's our timeline now? We're clear to close. I can have paperwork ready by Friday. Can you meet me at Mr. Peterson's house Friday afternoon? Absolutely. Friday afternoon arrived, and I drove to Mr. Peterson's house with Sarah and Emma. She deserved to be there for this moment. Mr. Peterson greeted us warmly. Marcus was already there with documents spread on the dining room table. This is quite an exciting day, Mr. Peterson said. I never imagined selling the lake would be such an adventure. I'm sorry you got dragged into all this drama. Don't be sorry. This has been the most fun I've had in years. When that environmental group tried to block the sale, I actually laughed out loud. Audacity! We spent the next hour signing documents. Marcus walked us through each one. The final document was the deed itself, transferring ownership of the lake and 30 acres from Robert Peterson to me. When I signed my name, my hand shook slightly. This was really happening. Mr. Peterson signed his portion, and Marcus notarized everything. It was done. Congratulations, Tom, Mr. Peterson said, shaking my hand firmly. You're now the owner of Willow Lake. I know you'll take good care of it. I promise I will. Thank you for making this possible. Thank me by telling me about Karen's reaction. I've been waiting for this story. I grinned. Give me till Monday. I want to make the announcement at the next HOA meeting. But I didn't have to wait. As we drove back, Sarah's phone rang. It was Barbara. Sarah. Is Tom with you? I need to talk to him urgently. Sarah put it on speaker. He's right here. Barbara, what's wrong? Karen just filed a formal complaint with the HOA board. She's demanding an emergency meeting tonight to discuss Tom's purchase. She's claiming his ownership violates HOA covenants, and the board needs to take legal action to reverse the sale. I exchanged glances with Sarah. The sale just closed an hour ago. How does Karen even know? I don't know. But she knows. She showed up at my house 20 minutes ago, with papers demanding action. Tom, I need to hold this emergency meeting. Can you attend? Absolutely. What time? 7 p.m. And Tom, bring your lawyer. I called Marcus immediately. He agreed to meet me at the meeting. At 6:45 p.m., Marcus, Sarah, and I walked into the meeting room. It was packed. Karen was already there with her husband, David. Tall man in his 50s, expensive suit, expression of barely concealed contempt. This was my first time seeing him at an HOA meeting. Barbara called the meeting to order at exactly 7 p.m. Thank you all for coming. We're here because board member Karen Whitmore requested an emergency meeting to discuss the recent sale of Willow Lake. Karen, you have the floor. Karen stood, holding a thick folder. Thank you, Barbara. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to inform you that Tom Hayes has perpetrated a fraud against this community. He purchased Willow Lake through deceptive means, and his ownership violates multiple HOA covenants. I'm calling on this board to take immediate legal action to void the sale. She opened her folder and read from various documents, most of what she said was misleading or false. She claimed the original easement was invalid. She claimed Mr. Peterson didn't have right to sell. She claimed I manipulated an elderly man. I let her talk without interrupting. Marcus had coached me on this. When Karen finished, she looked at Barbara expectantly. Well, what is the board going to do? Barbara looked at me. Tom, would you like to respond? I stood, and Marcus stood beside me. I'd like my attorney to address the board. Please proceed, Barbara said. Marcus stepped forward. Good evening. My name is Marcus Thompson, and I'm representing Mr. Hayes. I've reviewed all of Mrs. Whitmore's claims, and I can state unequivocally that every single one is false. The sale was conducted in accordance with all applicable laws. Mr. Peterson was represented by his own attorney. The price was fair, and based on professional appraisal, the easement remains in full force, and Mr. Hayes intends to honor it. He pulled out his own folder. What Mrs. Whitmore failed to mention is that she engaged in a sustained harassment campaign against Mr. Hayes and his family. She filed false complaints with county officials. She created a shell corporation to block the sale through fraudulent legal claims. She vandalized his property and spread defamatory rumors. Karen jumped to her feet. That's a lie. I've done no such thing. Then you won't mind explaining why the Willow Creek Environmental Preservation Society lists your home address as its principal office, or why your husband's law partner is listed as the registered agent, or why the organization's bank account was funded by a wire transfer from an account in your name. The room erupted in noise, people talking over each other, some shouting questions at Karen, others expressing shock and anger. Karen's face had gone pale. Her husband leaned over and whispered something. She gathered her things quickly. "This is a witch hunt," she said, voice shaking. "You're all going to regret this." And then she walked out for the third and final time. As the door slammed, I felt Sarah squeeze my hand. Emma leaned against my arm. Barbara banged her gavel to restore order. "Given what we've just heard, I don't think there's any basis for the board to take action against Mr. Hayes. Does anyone disagree?" Silence. "Then this emergency meeting is adjourned." After most people left, Barbara approached with a serious expression. "Tom, I owe you an apology. I should have dealt with Karen's behavior long ago. I knew she was causing problems, but I kept hoping she would change." "Barbara, you're not responsible for Karen's choices." "Maybe not. But I'm responsible for protecting this community. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm calling for a vote to remove Karen from the HOA board at the next regular meeting. Will you support that?" "Absolutely." As we walked to our car, I felt relief mixed with anticipation. The battle for the lake was almost over. But as I would soon discover, Karen had one final, desperate move planned, and it would put everything at risk. Your HOA horror story? Share it below. Daily HOA and Karen stories. At HOA Street Stories, should Tom join the HOA board? Like the video. The weekend after the emergency HOA meeting was strangely quiet. Karen hadn't been seen around the neighborhood. Her car was parked in her driveway, but curtains remained drawn. Neighbors commented it was unusual not to see her patrolling the streets, looking for violations. I spent Saturday morning putting up new signs around the lake. Professional signs from a local print shop, weather-resistant, and clearly stating the rules. Willow Lake private property. All Willow Creek HOA residents welcome for recreational use. No littering. No motorized boats. Fishing, catch, and release only. Owner, Tom Hayes. At the bottom, in smaller print, Karen Whitmore is permanently banned from this property for harassment and abuse of residents. Trespassing will result in immediate legal action. As I hammered in the last sign near the boat dock, Mike walked over with his fishing gear. "Those signs look great." "Tom, mind if I christen the new ownership with a few casts?" "Be my guest. That's what the lake is here for." We fished together for about an hour. Mike caught 3 bass and I caught 2. We were releasing the third when we saw a black Mercedes pull up, Karen's car. But it wasn't Karen who got out. It was her husband, David. He walked toward us, carrying a briefcase, expression cold and professional. "Mr. Hayes, I need to speak with you." "I'm fishing with my friend. If you want to schedule a meeting, call me." "This can't wait." He pulled out a document. "This is a cease and desist order. You are to immediately remove all signs, banning my wife from this property and restore her full access rights to the lake." I took the document and read through it. It was filled with legal jargon. But the basic argument was that the original easement granted lake access to all HOA residents without exception, and I couldn't selectively ban individuals. This is interesting, but it's wrong. The easement grants access rights, but as property owner, I have the right to revoke those rights for individuals who pose a threat to safety and peaceful enjoyment of other users. Standard property law. That's your interpretation. Mine is different. If you don't comply within 24 hours, we will file a lawsuit seeking immediate, injunctive relief. Then I guess I'll see you in court. David's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake, Mr. Hayes. My wife may have been overly passionate in protecting this community, but she doesn't deserve to be publicly humiliated and banned from a community resource. Your wife harassed my family for weeks, filed false police reports, created a fake environmental organization to block a legal transaction, vandalized our property, spread lies to our daughter's classmates. And you want me to just let that go? You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. Marcus has compiled a very detailed dossier. Bank records, emails, testimony from neighbors. If you really want to go to court, I'm happy to present all that evidence publicly. David's face flushed red. He seemed about to say something, then thought better of it. He turned and walked back to his car without another word. Mike let out a low whistle. That was intense. Think he'll actually sue? Probably, but Marcus says we're on solid legal ground. That night, Barbara called. She sounded concerned. Tom, I just got a strange call from Karen. She was crying, saying, "You've destroyed her life. She said she's going to lose everything because of what you've done." Barbara, I haven't done anything except protect my family and property rights. I know. But she sounded genuinely distraught. I'm worried about what she might do. She kept saying if she can't have the lake, nobody should have it. It gave me chills. After hanging up, he felt Unius. I called Marcus and told him about both conversations. I don't like that, Marcus said. Karen's backed into a corner now. She's lost community support. Her harassment campaign failed, and now she's banned from the one thing she seemed to care most about controlling. People in that situation can become unpredictable. What should I do? Be careful. Keep doors locked. Install security cameras. Document everything. I took his advice seriously. Monday, I ordered and installed security cameras around our house and at several points around the lake. Motion sensors and night vision. If Karen tried anything, we'd have evidence. Tuesday morning started normally. Emma went to school. Sarah left for work, and I went to the lake for maintenance. One of the old docks needed boards replaced. I was on my knees hammering when I heard a car engine. I looked up to see Karen's Mercedes speeding down the access road toward the lake, driving erratically. The car stopped abruptly about 50 feet from where I was working. Karen got out, and I immediately knew something was very wrong. Her hair was disheveled. Eyes red and puffy from crying, she wore sweatpants and an old t-shirt, completely unlike her usual designer outfits. Karen, you need to leave. You're trespassing. This is my lake, she screamed. I've lived here 15 years. I've taken care of this lake. I've protected it. And you think you can just take it away from me? I stood slowly, keeping my voice calm. Karen, this was never your lake. It belonged to Mr. Peterson, and now it belongs to me. You need to go home. No, you don't understand. This lake is everything to me. My house, my standing in the community, my entire life revolves around this lake. Without it, I'm nothing. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. Despite everything, I felt a moment of pity. But that moment ended quickly. Karen reached into her car and pulled out a large gas can. My blood went cold. Karen, what are you doing? If I can't have this lake, nobody can, she said, her voice eerily calm. She started walking toward the old wooden boathouse. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, moving toward her. Karen, stop! Don't do this! She ignored me. She reached the boathouse and started splashing gasoline on the wooden walls. The smell was overwhelming. 911? What's your emergency? This is Tom Hayes at 22 Lakeview Road in Willow Creek. I have a woman attempting to commit arson. She's pouring gasoline on a structure. Send police and fire department immediately. Karen pulled out a lighter. Karen, please. Think about what you're doing. This is arson. You'll go to jail. I don't care anymore. I don't care about anything. She flicked the lighter. I was running, but I was too far. The flame touched the gasoline-soaked wood, and fire erupted with a whoosh. Within seconds, the entire side of the boathouse was engulfed. Karen stumbled backward, seeming shocked by how quickly the fire spread. She dropped the gas can, and I watched in horror as flames raced toward it. Karen, run. Get away from there. She seemed frozen, staring at the fire. I reached her just as the gas can exploded, sending a fireball into the air. I grabbed her arm and pulled her away, both of us falling to the ground about 20 feet from the burning structure. The boathouse was now completely engulfed. Flames were spreading to nearby trees. I could hear sirens in the distance. Karen sat on the ground, staring at the fire, no longer crying, just staring with empty eyes. What have I done? She whispered. Oh God, what have I done? The first police car arrived within 3 minutes. Sheriff Rodriguez jumped out, took one look at the scene, and immediately radioed for more units and firefighters. Tom, are you hurt? I'm okay. It's Karen. She set the fire. Rodriguez looked at Karen, who was still sitting unresponsive. He walked over carefully. Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to stand up and put your hands behind your back. She didn't resist. She just stood mechanically and let him handcuff her. As he read her rights, the fire trucks arrived. It took firefighters 40 minutes to contain the blaze. The boathouse was completely destroyed. 3 large trees were badly burned. The damage was extensive. While firefighters worked, I gave my statement to police. I told them about the harassment campaign, threats, and Barbara's warning about Karen's mental state. I showed them the security camera footage from my phone, which I had been live streaming. The video clearly showed Karen pouring gasoline and lighting the fire. Karen was taken away in a police car, still silent and unresponsive. Marcus arrived soon after. I had called him as soon as it was safe. Are you okay? He asked. Physically, yes. Mentally? I shook my head. I never thought she'd go this far. The important thing is nobody was seriously hurt, and now she's going to face real consequences. What kind of consequences? Arson of a structure is a serious felony. Given the circumstances and her state of mind, she's looking at significant prison time, probably 3 to 5 years, maybe more. I looked at the charred remains. I almost feel sorry for her. She destroyed her entire life over a lake she never even owned. Some people can't handle not being in control. When they lose that control, they spiral. Over the next few days, details emerged. Her husband filed for divorce the day after her arrest. The court set bail at $50,000, but her husband refused to pay it, so she remained in jail. The HOA board voted unanimously to remove her. Several neighbors came forward with their own stories of harassment. The local newspaper ran a story. The headline read, "Former HOA board member arrested for arson after property dispute." The article detailed the entire saga. I received calls from several other HOA communities, asking for advice on dealing with board members who abuse power. Karen's downfall had become a cautionary tale. 2 weeks after the fire, I attended Karen's preliminary hearing. I wanted to see her, to understand what had driven her to such extremes. She looked different. Gone was the haughty, controlling woman I had known. She wore an orange jail jumpsuit. Her hair was pulled back simply. She looked small and defeated. When the prosecutor read the charges, she pleaded guilty to second-degree arson and criminal mischief. Her attorney argued for leniency based on her mental state, but the judge was unmoved. "Mrs. Whitmore, you deliberately set fire to another person's property. You endangered lives, including your own. You caused significant damage. While I understand you were experiencing emotional distress, that does not excuse your actions. I'm setting your sentencing hearing for 30 days from now. Until then, you will remain in custody." As they led her away, Kara looked directly at me for the first time. I expected to see hatred or anger. Instead, I saw resignation, acceptance, maybe even relief. After the hearing, the prosecutor discussed restitution. Marcus had compiled the numbers. The boathouse was worth approximately $15,000. The trees and landscaping damage is another $8,000. Lost use during repairs, another $5,000. Total of $28,000. The prosecutor nodded. "We'll include that in our sentencing recommendation." A month later, I attended the sentencing hearing. Karen's attorney arranged for character witnesses, including Barbara, who spoke about Karen's years of community service, but the prosecutor presented the full history of harassment, false complaints, and intimidation. The judge listened to everything, then addressed Karen directly. "Mrs. Whitmore, I've reviewed your case carefully. You have no prior criminal record. You have been an active community member for many years. But dedication crossed into obsession, and obsession led to harassment. When harassment didn't get you what you wanted, you escalated to violence. That cannot be tolerated." Karen stood with her head bowed, saying nothing. "I hereby sentence you to 3 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 18 months. You will also pay full restitution of $28,000 to Mr. Hayes. Additionally, upon release, you will be subject to a restraining order prohibiting you from contacting Mr. Hayes or his family, and prohibiting you from entering Willow Creek HOA property." Karen's shoulders slumped. Her attorney whispered something, but she just shook her head. As they led her away, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Justice had been served, but I took no pleasure in seeing someone's life destroyed. Outside the courthouse, Barbara was waiting. "Tom, I wanted to apologize again. I should have intervened with Karen years ago. If I had dealt with her behavior when it first started getting out of control, maybe none of this would have happened. Barbara, you can't blame yourself. Karen made her own choices." "I know, but I learned something from all this. Sometimes being a good leader means making hard decisions, even when they're uncomfortable." As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened. What started as a simple fishing trip had turned into a complex legal battle and ultimately a tragedy. But as I pulled into my driveway and saw Emma playing in the front yard, I realized something important. We were safe now. The harassment was over. Karen would spend the next few years getting the help she clearly needed, and Willow Lake was finally going to be what it was always meant to be: a peaceful place for the community to enjoy. Sarah came out to meet me. How did it go? 3 years in prison, 18 months minimum. Restitution of $28,000, permanent restraining order. "Good," she said firmly. Then, more gently, "Are you okay?" "I am now. It's finally over." She hugged me tightly. Emma ran over and joined the hug. For the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. That evening, Marcus called with more news. "Tom, I've been going through the financial records that came out during Karen's case. Turns out she and her husband were in serious financial trouble. They had taken out a second mortgage on their house to fund their lifestyle. They were 3 months behind on payments. So all that designer clothing and the expensive car ... were purchased with money they didn't have. Karen's obsession with status and control was probably driven by fear. Fear of losing everything she had built her identity around. When you bought the lake and threatened to ban her, it wasn't just about access to water. It was about her entire self-image crumbling. That's incredibly sad. It is, but it doesn't excuse what she did. Sometimes people create their own prisons long before they end up in real ones. The next day, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Mr. Peterson. "Dear Tom, I read about what happened with Mrs. Whitmore in the newspaper. I'm so sorry that selling you the lake led to such a terrible situation. I wanted you to know that I have no regrets about our deal. You are exactly the kind of person who should own that lake. Someone who values community over control. Someone who understands that the best things in life are meant to be shared, not hoarded. I hope you'll rebuild the boathouse and make it even better than before. And I hope you'll continue to let the good people of Willow Creek enjoy the lake the way my family always intended. Best wishes, Robert Peterson. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer. It was a reminder of why I had fought so hard, not to punish Karen, but to protect something beautiful for everyone who lived here. Over the next few weeks, I began planning the restoration. The insurance payout would cover most of the boathouse reconstruction. I decided to make it bigger and better, with a covered area where families could gather for picnics, rain or shine. I also organized a community meeting to discuss new lake rules and activities. Barbara helped me send out invitations to every household in Willow Creek. The turnout was incredible. More than 80 residents showed up, filling the community center to capacity. I stood at the front with Marcus and Barbara flanking me. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "I know the past few months have been difficult for our community, but I want to look forward, not backward. Willow Lake belongs to all of us now. Yes, I own the deed, but this lake is for everyone who lives here. I want your input on how we should manage it." For the next 2 hours, we discussed everything from fishing regulations to swimming safety to organized activities. Residents proposed a summer concert series. Someone suggested starting a junior fishing program for kids. Another person volunteered to organize regular cleanup days. By the end of the meeting, we had formed a lake advisory committee with representatives from different parts of the neighborhood. Barbara agreed to chair the committee. The energy in the room was positive and hopeful. As people were leaving, dozens of residents came up to thank me. One elderly woman, Mrs. Chun, took my hand in both of hers. "My husband and I have lived here for 23 years, she said. "We've always loved the lake, but Karen made us feel like we were trespassing every time we went there. Thank you for giving us our lake back." I smiled. "You're welcome, but you never lost it. It was always yours." Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, Emma came into our room. "Daddy, can we go fishing tomorrow after school?" "Absolutely, sweetheart. And we won't get in trouble." "No, baby, we won't get in trouble. The lake is ours now. Well, it's ours and everyone else's. But nobody's going to yell at us or give us fines. Those days are over." She smiled and hugged me good night. As I turned off the light, I thought about how much had changed since that Saturday morning in April. A simple fishing trip had led to the most challenging few months of my life, but it had also revealed the strength of our community and the importance of standing up for what's right. Karen was in prison, yes, but in a strange way, I hoped she would find peace there. Peace she had never been able to find when she was free. And tomorrow I would take my daughter fishing. Without fear, without stress, just a father and daughter enjoying a beautiful lake on a beautiful day. The battle for Willow Lake was truly over, and what came next would be so much better. What's your craziest HOA story? Write it in the comments. 3 months after Karen's sentencing, construction on the new boathouse began. I hired a local contractor, Jerry Matthews, who had lived in Willow Creek for 30 years. He understood what the community needed. I remember when Karen tried to fine me $200 for having my truck parked in my own driveway overnight, Jerry said as we reviewed the blueprints. Said it violated the aesthetic standards. "I'm happy to be working on this project." Tom, really happy. The new boathouse was going to be spectacular, twice the size of the old one, with a covered pavilion area that could host community gatherings. There would be benches along the water, a proper dock with safety railings, and even a small equipment storage area where residents could rent kayaks and fishing gear for free. Barbara had organized fundraising through the and neighbors had contributed an additional $12,000 beyond the insurance payout. People wanted to be part of this. They wanted to help create something positive from the ashes of Karen's destructive actions. Every weekend, volunteers showed up to help with the construction. Mike and his 2 teenage sons came every Saturday. Mrs. Chun and her husband brought lunch for the workers. Even residents I barely knew stopped by to offer assistance. One Saturday morning, as we were framing the pavilion roof, a black SUV pulled up. My first instinct was tension, remembering David Whitmore's Mercedes, but it wasn't David. It was an elderly man using a walker. "Mr. Peterson," I called out, hurrying over to help him. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see it," he said, his eyes scanning the construction site. "I wanted to see what you're building." I walked him slowly around the site, explaining each feature. When we reached the spot where the old boathouse had stood, he was quiet for a long moment. "My grandfather built that original boathouse in 1942, he said finally. "It stood for 82 years, and now you're building something even better in its place. I wish the circumstances had been different." "Don't," Mr. Peterson said firmly. "Sometimes things need to burn down before they can be rebuilt properly. My grandfather would have understood that. He lost his first barn to fire when he was a young man. He always said the new one was better because he learned from his mistakes." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "This is for you, for the boathouse." I opened it. Inside was a check for $25,000. "Mr. Peterson, I can't accept this. You already gave me a great deal on the lake. That's exactly why you can accept it. I gave you a good price because I trusted you to do right by the lake and the community. You've done that, and more. This money is to make sure you can finish this project the right way, without cutting corners." His eyes were moist. "This lake was my family's legacy, and you're honoring that legacy better than I ever could have. Take the money, Tom. Build something that will last another 80 years. I hugged him carefully, mindful of his frailty. "Thank you. I promise you, this boathouse will be here for generations." Construction continued through June and into July. The weather cooperated beautifully, with clear skies and moderate temperatures, perfect for outdoor work. The Lake Advisory Committee, chaired by Barbara, met every 2 weeks to discuss programming and events for the lake once the boathouse was complete. Sarah had taken charge of organizing the grand opening ceremony. She was a natural event planner, coordinating with vendors, arranging for food trucks, booking a local band, and managing all the logistics. Emma helped by making hand-drawn invitations that we posted around the neighborhood. The grand opening was scheduled for Saturday, August 3rd, 2024, exactly 4 months after the day Karen Finey for fishing with Emma. The morning of the opening, I woke up early and went down to the lake. The sun was just rising, casting golden light across the water. The new boathouse stood proud and strong, with its red roof and white walls gleaming. American flags flew from poles on either side of the pavilion. I stood there alone for a few minutes, taking it all in. This had cost me so much. Money, time, stress, peace of mind. But looking at what we had created together as a community, I knew it was worth every penny and every sleepless night. By 10 a.m., the crowd started arriving. Families with children, elderly couples, young professionals, singles, people I knew well, and people I had never met. By 11 a.m., there were over 200 people gathered around the lake. Barbara stepped up to the microphone we had set up near the boathouse entrance. She looked elegant and professional in a blue dress, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming to the grand opening of the Willow Creek community. Boathouse, this has been a long journey, and there were times when I wasn't sure we would get here. But thanks to the determination of one man and the support of this entire community, we're standing here today with something truly special." She gestured toward me. "Tom Hayes, please come up here." I walked up, feeling self-conscious. Sarah and Emma stood in the front row, both smiling. "Tom," Barbara continued, "when you moved to Willow Creek 3 years ago, I don't think any of us could have predicted what would happen. You faced harassment, intimidation, and even arson. But you never backed down. You fought not just for yourself, but for all of us. You reminded us what community really means." The crowd applauded. I saw Mike whistling, Mrs. Chun dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, Jerry pumping his fist in the air. "This boathouse represents more than just a building," Barbara said. "It represents resilience. It represents coming together. It represents the best of what Willow Creek can be. And it's dedicated to everyone who calls this place home." She turned to me. "Would you like to say a few words?" I stepped up to the microphone. my heart pounding. Public speaking had never been my strong suit. Thank you, Barbara, and thank you to everyone who's here today. When I first bought this lake, people asked me why. Why would you spend $300,000 on a lake? Why would you put yourself through all that stress and conflict? The answer is standing right in front of me. I gestured to the crowd. I did it for all of you. For Emma and every other kid in this neighborhood who deserves to fish and swim without fear. For families who want to spend time together outdoors. For anyone who ever felt like they didn't belong here because one person made them feel unwelcome. My voice caught for a moment. This lake isn't mine. It never was. Yes, my name is on the deed, but this belongs to all of us. The lake, the boathouse, the dock, all of it. It's our shared treasure. And I promise you, as long as I own this property, it will always be open to everyone in this community who treats it with respect. The applause was thunderous. Several people were crying openly, including Sarah. Emma ran up and hugged me around the waist. Barbara unveiled a plaque that would be mounted on the boathouse wall. It read, Willow Creek Community Boathouse. Dedicated August 3rd, 2024. Built by the community, for the community. May it serve as a reminder that standing together, we are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. The ceremony continued with the ribbon cutting. Barbara handed me oversized scissors, and Emma helped me cut the red ribbon stretched across the boathouse entrance. The crowd cheered as the ribbon fell away. Then came the best part. Watching families pour into the boathouse, exploring the pavilion, sitting on the new benches, walking out onto the dock. Kids were laughing and running around. Adults were taking photos. Someone started a pickup game of frisbee on the grassy area near the water. The food trucks I had hired began serving lunch. A taco truck, a burger truck, and an ice cream truck. Everything was free, my treat for the community. The local band set up on the pavilion stage and started playing classic rock and country music. I was standing near the dock, watching Emma and several other kids trying to skip stones, when Mike walked over. Hell of a day, Tom. Yeah, it really is. You know what the best part is? Nobody's looking over their shoulder. Nobody's worried about getting fined or yelled at. People are just happy. He was right. The atmosphere was completely different from any HOA event I could remember. There was no tension, no anxiety, just pure enjoyment. An hour into the celebration, I noticed a woman in her mid-40s standing alone near the edge of the gathering, watching but not participating. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. After a few minutes, she walked toward me. Mr. Hayes, I'm Lisa Richards. I'm Karen Whitmore's sister. My stomach tightened. I didn't know Karen had a sister. We haven't spoken in 6 years. We had a falling out over her need to control everything. But I heard about what happened. I came because I wanted to apologize to you on behalf of my family. You don't need to apologize for her choices. Maybe not. But I want you to know that Karen wasn't always like this. When we were young, she was kind and generous. Somewhere along the way, she lost herself. She became obsessed with status and appearances. Lisa's eyes were sad. I visited her in prison last week. She's different now. Quieter. More reflective. She asked me to tell you something if I ever saw you. What did she want you to say? She said to tell you that you were right. About everything. She said she's sorry for what she did to your family, and she hopes someday you can forgive her. She doesn't expect you to, but she hopes. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. I appreciate you telling me. I don't know if I'm ready to forgive her yet, but maybe someday? Lisa nodded. That's more than fair. Enjoy your celebration, Mr. Hayes. What you've done here is beautiful. She turned and walked away. Sarah came up beside me. Who was that? Karen's sister. She came to apologize. That must have been hard for her. Yeah, it must have been. The party continued into the afternoon. The band played for 3 hours. Kids swam in the lake under the watchful eyes of volunteer lifeguards we had hired for the day. Several residents brought their own kayaks and canoes, paddling around and enjoying the beautiful weather. Arund for Payame, Barbara pulled me aside. Tom, I have some news. The HOA board met last night, and we voted unanimously to make you an honorary board member. We want your voice in decisions that affect the community. Barbara, I appreciate that, but I'm not sure I want to be on the HOA board. She smiled. I understand. After everything you've been through, board meetings probably aren't appealing. But think about it. You've shown real leadership. The community respects you. We need people like you making decisions. Let me talk to Sarah about it. Take your time. The offer stands. As the sun started to set, the crowd began to thin. Families packed up their things, thanked me profusely, and headed home. The band finished their set and started breaking down their equipment. By 7 p.m., only a handful of people remained. Mike and his family, Mrs. Chun and her husband, Jerry and his wife, Barbara, and a few other close neighbors. We sat together on the pavilion benches, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. Someone had brought a cooler of beer, and we passed bottles around. "To Tom," Mike said, raising his bottle, for being stubborn enough to fight and smart enough to win. "To Tom," everyone echoed. I raised my own bottle. To all of you, for reminding me why community matters, for standing with me when things got hard, for building this boathouse with your own hands. This isn't my victory. It's ours. We clinked bottles and drank. Mrs. Chun spoke up, her voice soft but clear. When my husband and I moved to America 45 years ago, we dreamed of finding a place where we belonged, a place where we could be part of something larger than ourselves. Today, sitting here with all of you, I feel like we finally found it. Her husband squeezed her hand. Several people, including me, had tears in their eyes. As darkness fell, we lit the new solar lights that lined the dock and pavilion. They cast a warm glow across the water. Fireflies began to appear, dancing above the lake surface. Emma had fallen asleep on Sarah's lap. I looked at my family, at my friends, at this beautiful place we had fought so hard to protect and improve. "You know what?" I said quietly. "This is exactly what Mr. Peterson wanted. This moment right here, people coming together around water, sharing stories, building connections. This is what he meant when he said he wanted the community to enjoy the lake the way his family had." Barbara nodded. "And that's what you gave us, Tom. You gave us back something we didn't even realize we had lost. The ability to simply be together without fear or conflict." One by one, people started heading home. Jerry was the last to leave, shaking my hand firmly. "Same time next Saturday. I was thinking we could build some picnic tables for the pavilion." "Same time next Saturday," I agreed. Finally, it was just Sarah, Emma, and me. I carried Emma to the car while Sarah gathered our things. Before we left, I took one last look at the boathouse, standing proud under the stars. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Peterson. I saw the photos on social media. My heart is full. Thank you for keeping the dream alive. Robert I texted back. Thank you for trusting me with your dream. It was worth fighting for. As we drove home, Sarah reached over and took my hand. You did it, Tom. You actually did it. We did it. Okay, we did it. But you started it. That Saturday morning in April, when you refused to let Karam intimidate you. That's when all of this became possible. When we got home and put Emma to bed, I stood on our back deck one more time, looking out toward the lake. I could just barely see the lights of the boathouse twinkling in the distance. 6 months ago, I had been fined $2,000 for fishing with my daughter. Today, I had stood at the grand opening of a boathouse, built by an entire community coming together. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories. And as I turned off the deck lights and went inside to my family, I knew that Willow Lake would continue to bring people together for generations to come. Not because of me, but because of what we had all built together. Karen had tried to control the lake and lost everything. I had tried to protect the lake and gained a community. In the end, that made all the difference. The battle for Willow Lake was over, and the lake had won. How would you react if this kind of HOA sabotage happened to you?